how to get started with Appium for mobile testing. And I'll be doing an example on Android. So what we have here is a simple npm project with WebDriver IO installed and configured. And so the prerequisites are basically have Android Studio installed, Appium, and Node.js. There's a few little environment variables and stuff you have to set up. Android Home, Java Home. This is the main file that we're going to be looking at today, which uses the WebDriver IO, and I'm just using a cert for example purposes. So this is the WebDriver IO setup to show run the app in Appium. We've got a simple API demo, which is the Android app. And that is the full path to that particular file. The next thing we've got set up is Appium. So before you can actually go writing any tests in Appium, you need to be able to actually know what the selectors are. Now, normally with a web app, you would just run the web app up and grab the selectors using the inspector tools. Using Appium, we can do the same thing. So I'm just going to use my little start emulator script here. And this will actually run the Android Studio profile I've set up.
That looks really cool, just commenting.
Now this uses the standard ADB drivers that you'd be using on the mobile phone. And so now we start Appium, and that will actually go through and connect to the phone. So to get a project now running on the Android emulator, we start an inspector session. And input the Appium parameters. Now, if I've already gone and set them all up, the main ones that I'm worrying about here are the platform name, the platform version, the device name, and the app, which is the full path to the app location there. Now this is going to start the app on the mobile service and give me this little inspector tool that I can select what I want on the app to be able to grab the selectors for. So we're going to select this first field here. Just make this bigger. And you can see the selector IDs, and the XPath, and the ID. Now, the issue I have with this app is the best selector that you can use is the
You've muted yourself. Can you unmute yourself? Unmute yourself. There we go.
I must have hit spacebar.
Yeah, accessibility.
The accessibility ID.
Yeah, okay. I'll mute myself again.
The accessibility ID, as that works on both Android and iOS the same, and it's the fastest selector. The problem with this app is it doesn't have any accessibility IDs. And the actual class names are the same. So we're going to use the resource ID, this one here. It's actually the same as this ID here. Now I've just inlined this here, and this is where I've placed this resource ID. So it's using the UI selector system. There is a couple of different selector systems that Appium can use. This was the recommended one for this particular project. And because we're using Android, we're using the Android selector. Now these are in the WebDriver.io docs, but essentially this will grab the first item that it comes across. Just to show you it working. So Appium will start the app, select the first field, write hello world, and select the second field and write hello world. And we'll actually assert that each of those contains hello world and ... as the second field is actually a password field and shouldn't be displaying hello world at all. Now, of course, if I change this, run it again, it should fail. There we go. Assertion error. Hello world. It does not equal hello world. To get this to running on a mobile phone, it's as simple as turning off the Android emulator and plugging in the mobile phone.
This is the most popular app that's used, Appium.
Yeah.
But it seems to be really old.
It is.
Oh, okay.
It seems like mobile automation has not gone very far, or at least is very stagnant in what the tools they use. I can see why they're using Appium. It is quite easy to get set up and running.
How long did it take you to set it up?
Weekend.
Yeah, no, because it was, what were the kind of issues that you had?
So I'm running an AMD processor. I have to be using a specific version of Android Studio for it to be able to work, because they've got Intel virtualization built into some of the ordinary versions of Android Studio.
Okay.
And
Have you used any other similar tools, Ben?
similar tools? Nothing quite similar to this. This makes it easy in the sense that you have a you can actually test native apps with this and grab the selectors.
Okay.
That little Appium inspector thing to grab the selectors makes things very easy. I mean, I wouldn't know how to do that on a native app otherwise.
Okay.
Unless you had the source code available to you.
Other than that, there doesn't seem to be much difference in terms of what you need to know to navigate this than what we've seen on web.
No, not at all.
Automation suites. There doesn't seem to be a major big learning curve. It seems the biggest hassle is just setting it up and running and making sure it's maintained and updated. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that would definitely be correct.
Okay. How many times do you have to update this? I mean, Node's always coming out with changes every day and all the rest of it. How often does this have to be updated or maintained?
That's an interesting dilemma, isn't it?
It's annoying.
Yeah.
In a team, to be honest, if you had the luxury, you want to have someone set aside who can maintain all the tools and updates and things like that, because it's just annoying.
Well, you'd probably want to stay on something until it's, until you have something maybe have something tell you when it's depreciated or has a vulnerability on it or something.
Okay. I noticed some of the posts out recently that most people they're talking about test automation should not be on the phones itself. They should all be using emulators. Have you got any comments on that?
Well, for example, with the COVID-19 app, you cannot get that to run in an emulator. Specifically made not to run in an emulator.
It's a real shit app, Ben.
Well, that was their security measure.
Really?
Yeah, you can't run it in an emulator.
All right.
Of course, it runs perfectly fine on an Android phone.
Yeah. Alrighty. What else have you got to tell us?
I mean, the only other little tip that I could have is Appium Doctor, which basically just runs through and makes sure everything's set up correctly.
But I noticed last time you showed this, it It still wasn't working.
And I actually don't have, I think maybe I tried to update Android Studio.
Okay. All right. Cool. I think I'll give this a go. Although it looks like something I'll do on a couple of weekend time, in a couple of weekends, once we finish some other stuff here. Okay. So is that it?
That's it.
All right.
Very simple.
Any questions for me? No. I know you popped in, Jono. You're about an hour early. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, I'll stop recording.